Dune 2 is officially out in theaters this weekend, and it could be one of the greatest sci-fi films of all time. Let's talk about it. Hey guys, welcome back to Behind the Kernel. Today we're going to be talking about Dune Part 2. Real quick before we actually dive into this review, I want to show off my quick out-of-theater reaction, so I'm going to do that quick now.
Hey everyone, I just got out of seeing Dune Part 2, and all I can say is I will definitely be going to see that again. There was a point in the movie, probably towards the first act, the end of the first act, where I was like, you know, this movie's pretty good so far. I don't know if it's going to be, you know, as great as people are saying it. And then the second act hit, and then the third act hit. And it just, I couldn't even, like, I kind of forgot that I was a human being for a minute that was living and breathing. And, like, my heart was racing the whole time. I quite literally had to, like, stop myself for a minute and, like, okay, let's keep going. And just, Timothée Chalamet, if you didn't have confidence in him before as an actor, you definitely should after this movie, because he does an amazing job here. This movie kind of, I've been hearing it compared to like a lot of stuff like, oh, this is what people who watch The Empire Strikes Back, a lot of those, you know, sci-fi films, definitely goes down in history as one of the best sci-fi films of all time. As if it's the best one, I don't know about that, but I definitely know it's up there for the best of all time. Definitely gonna go see it again, you know, to give it another rewatch, but do not miss out on seeing this in theaters. You definitely want to see this in theaters.
So, obviously, nothing but good things to say about the film. There's a lot more in-depth things I want to talk about here in a second, but right before I do that, if you are new to the channel, consider hitting that subscribe button so you don't miss a single review or reactions or just anything on the channel for that matter. Or if not, I'm just glad you're here with us. Let's dive into Dune Part 2. So the plot of this movie pretty much picks up right where the first one left off, where Paul is kind of trying to make his way into learning the ways of the Fremen and give them their planet back. First thing we need to talk about is Timothée Chalamet as an actor. This movie has already bumped me up a couple notches for him in terms of acting. This guy can act. He absolutely just... You kind of forget that Timothée Chalamet is an actor and that he's not actually Paul in this movie. Like, you believe that he is the character who he, you know, is portraying, and it's hard to see him as like another character now. It's just a very well done role for him. Coming in right after Timothée Chalamet is Austin Butler as Feud Rotha. As our main villain of this movie, he does an amazing job. I don't know if they picked Austin Butler because he has that like just crazy look in his eye, but I love it. There's a whole section of this movie where you get to go to the Harkonnens' home world, and you get to see him like interact with people there, and like just kind of how their day-to-day life is when they're not fighting people, or like even if they are fighting people, it's like a huge sense of familiarity. So I don't know, it really works. So like it kind of helps you understand their planet more and where they come from. Before I dive off of the Harkonnens' like homeworld, I do want to say the way that they have like the black moon and how everything's kind of like in black and white, and then they chose to have like firework. Like, I thought a lot of those cinematic shots were really cool. They really stuck out to me the entire movie. As you'll probably hear a lot of other people say, the cinematography is beautiful. Every shot that they put in this movie feels like it needs to be in there to sell what they are going for. There are shots of the desert, of course. There are shots of people, the way they turn around, their eyes, their even like the baby, the mom's baby. Everything gets its own little shot to represent how they feel in that moment. One of my favorite things about Dune Part 2 specifically is that at no point during the movie do you like, why is Paul doing this? Like, you know, why am I interested in this? Every moment that Paul is, you know, training with the Fremens, or, you know, riding a worm, or just doing something to, you know, learn more about this world, it feels like an adventure. That's already like a huge part of the movie, on top of, you know, the giant war that they have at the end of this movie. It just feels like they've created like a whole universe in which they could make, you know, sequel after sequel, and I would still watch this series because of the way that it's shot. I also need to commend Denis Villeneuve, I believe that's how you pronounce his name, just for the way that he is not afraid to take risks. There were so many times in this movie where I was like, wow, they actually went with that, and it works. So I love when directors and filmmakers decide to take risks on their film, because a lot of times it's fun and it's unique and it works for the film. It doesn't make the film feel bland or like any other film. That's the whole point. It was also nice to see Josh Brolin's character again. I forget what his character's name is, but I really like his whole side of, you know, bringing Paul back to kind of his roots a little bit, because he's really the only one there now besides his mother, which his mother, you know, kind of gets a little psycho in this movie, with they, you know, everyone's kind of calling Paul like the Messiah or the one. You know, Josh Brolin's character doesn't really believe all that crap, but is going along with it for the sake of, you know, he's pretty much outnumbered. But I just like how he kind of was like along for the journey with him in this movie. I don't know, I really enjoyed that. Finally, I just want to talk about Hans Zimmer's score for this movie, because it is just easily one of his best, and you know, that's a big praise, especially with the fact that Hans Zimmer is just known for his amazing soundtrack. He yet again, he delivers here. There were moments in the movie where, between the music and just the really great audio design, where my heart would either, you know, like I felt like it stopped, or like it was beating really fast depending on what was going on in the movie. It felt like my body reacted to like what was going on in the movie, and that's a pretty insane scenario. Lastly, just as a general thought, I generally feel like I've witnessed history just by going to the movie theater last night. I feel like I've been part of, you know, a cinematic series or a huge sci-fi series that will be talked about for generations. People will go back, you know, remember Dune Part 2? Yeah, I was there opening night. People will collect their ticket stubs. People will have videos, and this video will be forever on the internet, and people will go back and watch this review. I really feel like this is such an accomplishment for people who love sci-fi films, and where they can take, you know, things like Star Wars or Marvel or DC or these independent projects, and take them and, you know, watch this movie and say, wow, maybe we can do something like that in our own way. I think there's a lot to learn from this movie. So yeah, guys, that is my review for Dune Part 2. Leave a comment down below letting me know what you thought about the movie, or if you haven't seen it yet, go watch it and then come back to this video and, you know, leave your comments down below. I'd love to know what you thought about the movie, or if, you know, you're kind of on the fence, I don't know if I really want to see it or not. I would highly recommend you see Dune Part 1 before you do watch this movie, but definitely give it a shot. I know it's quite a long film. I believe it's 2 hours and 46 minutes, but it's definitely worth going to see, and I promise you will have at least a good time watching it. So, thank you guys all so much for watching, and I will see you all in the next video. Until then, guys, peace.